Arcadia as an undergraduate and a graduate student. And so this is one of the people I feel like we've been helping / watching / gently prodding along, sometimes also gently prodding, for years. And it's wonderful to see all of that come to fruition. It's really rare to see someone for legitimately 6 years of their academic life and then obviously keep in touch afterwards and see all of that come to being in a book like this, which of course is the first of many, I am sure. So before Tianna comes up here and reads you some of her poems, there are a few things that you might know about her, but you might not. One is that Tianna is not a small person, and she's not a quiet person. She is not shy or anything like that. She just appears that way. I believe it is a facade for her to move along and get the things she actually wants. Because once you get to know Tianna, you start hearing stories about prisons. Yes. And her doing work with prisoners. Let me be clear, not being incarcerated. Right. Doing work with prisoners to the extent that she had a nickname from the prisoners. Her nickname was / is Sneaky T. Sneaky T. And I remember so vividly sitting in a Starbucks in the Exton area going over some of her writing, which had to do with prison culture, naturally. It made sense. It was great subject matter. And she told me that she had a prison nickname. What? If you had polled me of all the students I had about who would have a prison nickname, she would be the last one. But she did, and does. I presume that nickname still holds, like we can call you Sneaky T and you will answer.
I have a tattoo, yeah.
You have a tattoo? Okay, yeah, so it is legitimately permanent. That is there. And what that shows you is that Tianna is so much more than the person she first seems when you meet her for 5 minutes. And she's the kind of person that you need to get to know for a few years. And those few years are so incredibly rewarding. And it was at the end of all of that, and then a few years after, that we see again this book. And I just think it is one of the coolest things about my job to see something like this. And I absolutely love it. So, enough about all of that. Without further ado, I will let Tianna take the podium and read some poetry.
Can you hear me?
Nope.
Should I use this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. So excited to see some old professors. Obviously, Josh, thank you for putting this together. My family, some very old friends that I've had for a long time, and my in-laws who traveled the furthest to be here today from Denmark and Europe. So, welcome. I know they're not just here for this, but it's pretty cool that it worked out that way. So I also have to thank my publishers who came from Maryland. Thank you for making the trip. And Jeremy also illustrated this book, so it's extra special. It's been a wild ride for sure, and I'm very proud to be here today, so thank you. And Marian's here as well. We'll be publishing her book at my small press in July. Just had to shout you out, so awesome. And that goes on pre-order tomorrow. So this is Undone, Still Whole, which is about overcoming my trauma and reclaiming my body through channeling the divine feminine, lots of goddesses, imagery, and fire and burning. And that's kind of, to me, what it means to live through trauma, is feeling like you no longer own your body and trying to take back control of that. And I'll eventually have a prison book out there too one day, but this one's not that. So I'm going to read to you some poems. The first one I selected is channeling Persephone, Queen of the Underworld. It's called 6 More Weeks of Winter, and I did use my fiction degree, I'll have you know, because this started out as a flash fiction piece. So I'm not just a poet. She dug her fingernails into the moist earth, wiggling her hips, trying to break free. Burial gown rotting off her flesh. The heat of the world below burned her ankles, backs of her thighs flaming. She knew any moment he would reclaim her. Above, the grass covered in frost, her mother's final grip in mourning. She could feel the sunshine warm on her neck, melting frost into dew. Flames licked up her legs, tasting her skin. Hands reached up to anchor her below. No matter how many times she attempted escape, she would always belong to the world beneath. The next one I'm going to read is also, used to be a flash fiction, called Polish the Bones. The bones are always left behind. Gather them as you'd gather kindling in your skirt and smuggle them up the stairs 2 at a time, creaking under the weight. Polish each with care until they shine like perfectly cultured freshwater pearls. Every blemish makes them beautiful. Fondle glistening femurs and rib bones stacked neat like accordions. Teeth take longer to glimmer. They clack against each other as you shake one fist, morbid music jangling from the improvised instrument. Finally, you organize them, each polished bone set in proper shape until you are almost whole again. And the next one is actually, I was originally titling my collection Burn the Witch, and it was going to be all about the witch imagery and burnings, but it became a lot more than that, but this used to be the title piece. Burn the Witch. There's a witch inside me, made of twigs and magic, dark, and curses thick as blood, congealed. She sees the worst in you, engulfed by the flames. Bind my wrists, frayed rope breaks skin, like teeth, like a knife serrated, biting deep. I confess, all the tiny ways you tried to save me only made me love you more, yearning, burning inside. Match strike, flint lock, throw me in the lake, a bag of bones and sticks, weighted with stone. Watch for me to float back to the surface. You've tried to kill me in every life I've lived, every skin I've shed, this witch will never die. Smothered in smoke, dancing in the ashes of a billion dreams, flames blown from glowing coal, I will burn again, but never be destroyed. The next one channels Artemis, goddess of the hunt, one of my favorites, and it's called Triggered, and I know this is a personal favorite of my mom-in-law, Julie's. Sorry. She hunts it, knocked bow, tethered to her shoulder, monster clear in her sights. The beast will die a slow death after she slashes through her wilderness of distress, wearing its blood like a gown. Arrow-pouring maiden with hounds at her heels, effortlessly weaves through trees, their trunks like guardians, tall, unmoved. Do not give up this hunt, she intones. Shed skin like a barracuda, razor-sharp teeth fall loose one by one by one, until she's free, triggered no more. The next one is a prose poem. Actually, I'm going to save that one for last. Just kidding. The next one is called Unexplored, and this one was interesting for me to write. Maybe you'll know what it's about, maybe not, but I'm not going to say it with my family here, so. Sorry. Melted tab and click of heels before it all went wrong. Black balloons bob in the back alley, a thicket of dark offerings from hooded men. We scamper past, barely dressed, thinking of witches, of the woman poisoned with ergo in Salem, the dark rye, rain and damp make a hearth for fungi, honeydew mucus spew, wet convulsive spores of witchcraft. We lust for magic, spells to temper fog and phantoms, cure this urge to burn our fleshy prisons, yearning for release. Now I'm going to read the title poem, which actually wasn't meant to be in this collection, but when I showed it to Jeremy, he was like, this belongs in there. And then it became the title, which was really awesome. So this one's really special to me. Undone. Stripped down to bare bones, I am yours. Peel off my skin and peer inside to discover my beating heart trembling for you. Do you believe me? Now that you have sliced me open, taken my bare body as your own, stitch me together with needle and thread, wires sewn deep as intricate nerves swaddling bone. Where rivers once ran red, lace me up in this corset veneer, crimson chrysalis. I am undone, still whole. Even you cannot break me. Okay, now my favorite one, which is also on the broadside that you'll receive if you got a copy today, with beautiful illustration, which I guess I can show. You guys can see that. It's my favorite one. Thank you, Jeremy. This is Becoming Calypso, the sea goddess. I'm sure you're all aware of that. But also, I love Pirates of the Caribbean, so I took a little bit from that. Adrift, I am unanchored from the shores of my discovery, a buoy floating through uncharted waters, fathoms of sea sprawling beneath. Become one with the ocean, worshipped over candlelit myth, a goddess rising on waves to overtake sailors' ships, towering above with scaled perfect flesh. I am a dragon abreast, breathing smoke and brine. Come find me in the night, blindfolded by darkness. I am the nymph queen, capturing you in spells, never to be tamed or caged. Embrace me, enchantress. Stretch this skin until it hugs my bones, a gown of seaweed, tentacles entwined. I'll turn your black heart to coral stone, steal it from the cavern above your lungs, lock it in a chest, beating, beating. Oh, also I have to say, 4 years ago, I was standing in this spot presenting my undergrad thesis, so that's pretty cool. Now I have a book out, so.
Was your undergrad thesis poetry?
Yes, it was. It was actually all about a woman in prison, which then turned into a novel, which I'm editing profusively. Maybe it'll be.
Some of your prison stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, good.
I love writing about prison.
Yeah.
Sneaky tea, what up? Actually, my friend who I re-met, sorry, a little story sidetrack, but I re-met my friend Rohan Sharma 4 years after taking the Inside Out Prison course with Sue back there, my favorite teacher. Sorry, Josh. But yeah, Sue and I went into prison together, which was an entirely new world, and it changed my entire life, opened my eyes, and I wanted to write about it so bad. I also wrote about it in Gretchen's class. She just said she remembered my magazine writing about it, so it's one of my passions, and hopefully it'll be out there someday, but I'm proud to also publish with my small press Rohan's memoir coming in November. So that was really cool. I re-met with him 4 years later after the class in prison, which was pretty wild. Anyway, sorry. So probably the final one I'm going to read tonight, unless you guys want an encore, is Breaking Ground. And this is a prose poem as well, and one of my favorites. So, flower buds seek the sun's stretching fingers. She throws her hands high, reaching as far as she can until her shoulders pop and crack. Head back, hair falls like a cascading waterfall, rippling. She breathes air smelling of final frost and sets to work breaking ground, Teeth of her shovel bite deep in dirt. She digs until her palms blister against the wood, until they are scraped and stinging. The hole is as big and round as a fire pit, perfect for roasting marshmallows or summoning demons. She empties a box of kindling, rummages inside another box until her fingers touch something soft. A stuffed animal, big beady eyes and stitched faux fur gaze up at her. She throws it in the hole and pulls out a box of matches. Strikes one, the smell of sulfur lingering in the air as she tosses the little flame to the pile and watches fire expand, devouring its fuel. The box contains old love letters, scraps of paper confessing undying devotion, dried roses hung upon a wall and forgotten, secrets and memories better left unsaid, scrap of lace, leather-bound journal with a cracked spine, faded cover. All of it belongs to the fire. Flames lick and smile. Firelight reflects in her eyes. Tendrils of smoke caress, tracing her hips, playing with strands of hair circling. She is cleansed, unburdened by what once weighted her. Fire crackles until it finishes its feast. She will return under cover of darkness, take off her shoes and walk barefoot. Feel what her past secrets have become upon her naked skin. In the dead of night, a chorus of springtime frogs and crickets will serenade her as she dances in the ashes. Thank you. Josh is ready to end it. Request, prose poem, short poem.
Rose poem. You want to say something?
Okay, yeah, thank you. This one I was actually going to finish with, but it's a little bit darker, so fair warning. This is called Unearthing, and I actually got the inspiration for this from Silent Hill, so yeah. And I wrote this for a journal called Pussy Magic, which published it, so that's cool. 2 years it took to break the bond of lips sealed tight, pressed together as if by a needle sewn with thread. Your lips are skewered by rays of the moon, your insides bared to the ravens. They feast as your body lies, dappled with drops of moonlight like icy diamonds shimmering along skin. You didn't climb the hill willingly. He dragged you by the hair, kicking and screaming. You fought all the way. That's what you'll tell them. Better than speaking the truth, he threw your limp body over his shoulder like a sack of dreams and carried you into the night. There would be no coming back, never the same as when you entered this nightmare. All around you, pieces of ash fall from the sky. Heavy fog thickens the air, stealing your breath. Taste of smoke, your charred future. Did you ever think you would escape this? Creator of your own nightmare, gatekeeper to your prison, you hold keys to unlock the path of light, but always turn toward darkness instead. When the light beckons, you look down. Don't meet the eyes of the moon, or it will seduce you to rejoin the world of the living. You are half dead in this silent torture, becoming more like a creature with no face or mouth, without ability to cry out to save yourself. Your body burns from the ground up. Its fires will never extinguish. Just as the coals of your heart forever blaze, once you break the silence and stretch your hands to grasp the fingers of the pregnant wolf moon, you will find the fires remain. Focus on their light and warmth beyond their destruction and searing heat. Gently begin the process of unearthing your soul. Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Would anyone like to inundate Tianna with questions?
Oh, yeah, questions. Let them know.
Is it your terrible childhood that is your inspiration? I'm sorry. No. Just kidding.
Do you want that answer?
No!
Yes, part of it. It wasn't so bad.
Good.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, I know you did fiction in the MFA program, and did you just have really interest in both fiction and poetry all along?
Yeah, so actually I applied for poetry and then I emailed Josh and I was like, can I do fiction instead? Because I will always love poetry and I want to do fiction and focus on that. But in my studies, I've definitely, like with a lot of these, they used to be flash fiction or microfiction. And I turned them into poetry or vice versa, turn a poem into flash fiction. And I loved doing the fiction program because it taught me a lot, and I have a novel now that I might not have had before, so.
Yeah.
And that was originally poetry, so I love it. I don't know, I love writing all types of things.
Yeah, that also reminds me of Laurie Halse Anderson.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, she does everything.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And I like that. It's so good for your creativity.
Yeah, and I do the memoir creative nonfiction as well, so I write everything.
Yeah, that's great. That versatility is
Yeah.
incredible.
That's a great question, thank you. Come on, don't be shy. Now's your chance.
I have questions.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Was it hard? How did you manage to get the publisher?
So one of my friends through like Twitter / she's also a Philadelphia poet, Rebecca Kokaitis. I saw she had a book out and it was beautiful, and I was like, wow, that's really well done. So I just contacted them through their website and was like, how do you guys go about selecting people? And Jeremy got back to me and he's like, oh, send me some of your work and about you. So I did, and then he was really interested to see more, and it just kind of went through from there. I was like, do you really want to publish this? Because I have it out in a couple places, so let me know. But it was really amazing. And to have the artwork as well, it was like a real collaboration. It's really wonderfully done. And I wouldn't have this book any other way. So thank you, Jeremy. And Kara. You do good work too. You guys can ask Jeremy questions too. The artist.
So hard to work with.
Absolutely. Really?
I'm pretty demanding, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was what? Her seriousness about editing and doing the work to make what it is.
Yeah, and Jeremy helped me edit every single poem in there as well. So I think I really needed that like care and attention with my work. Because I just kind of spurred it out, like, and it's all very personal. So I'm like, I need somebody to just sit me down and be like, what do you mean by this line? Or what were you trying to say with this poem? And this whole thing, I mean, I didn't even have the divine feminine figures in it until he noticed. He was like, there's a lot in here that you can pull out. So thank you.
So you've got a book of poetry, and you're editing a novel. So can we expect a book of short stories?
Maybe. I have to get to work on that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll keep that in mind for my fan base. Give the people what they want.
That's right.
Do you
Yes.
think that the prisoner writings will be poems or stories or
I've done it.
nonfiction, fresh nonfiction?
I've done it in both.
Or both, or all
Yeah,
of them?
I mean, my undergrad thesis was the poetry from a woman's perspective who was in prison, and then that turned into a novel. But I've done that, and so I have both of those, and then I also have, I did start creative nonfiction actually with Rohan, who I mentioned earlier. We were gonna write like a joint memoir, so it'd be like his story and my story, and how we met each other in prison, and then re-met later. But then I just started publishing like all my creative nonfiction that was part of that, and I don't know if he felt left behind or something, but he's,
Rohan was a prisoner?
yes, he was in the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center for a bipolar episode. So he focuses a lot on mental health awareness, and if he had had the help he needed, he wouldn't have been in prison or committed his crime. No, we re-met 4 years after the class, yeah. So, but it was always a dream of mine. Like, I kept putting it out into the universe that I wanted to meet a prisoner after that class and just see how they were doing. And he speaks for NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness in Bucks County now. So he's really like turned his whole experience into something very empowering. So I latched on to that and I said, hey, I want to help you write your memoir. So
Don't give up on that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Editing as we speak.
Good.
Not right now,
Right.
but in my head. Thank you. That was a good question. Josh, questions for me?
Yeah, can you talk about what it's like being a publisher as well as a writer? Because now you're on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a heavier hand being a publisher than say like a teacher or something like that. So how is that? Has that affected your process, or you're thinking about your own work, and then vice versa, the way you approach the work that you're working with as a publisher?
Definitely. That's a good question. So I never really expected to be a publisher, but I love editing, and that was a big thing for me. So I wanted to also give a space for people like me who have this trauma they're trying to get over, and they want to use healing through writing, which is a big focus on me. So I guess seeing other people come forward with their stories has made me feel more powerful to share mine as well. But it's definitely not easy to be a writer and an editor and publisher, because I want to spend my free time on these people I'm publishing. It's a very delicate balance, because if I hadn't like reached out to Jeremy and gotten this book, I probably would have just put my writing on the back burner and just focused on all of my editing publishing, which I didn't want to do because then I feel left out. And it's really fulfilling to see all these people with all these books out, but then I'm kind of like, oh, I'm a writer too. So it's really cool to have this happen. And then last week, on Saturday, I had a book launch for a book I published, which was really awesome to do that, but it's kind of like back to back, so it's like, I don't know, did that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I don't really have spare time anymore, so
Right.
yeah. But I love it. I love what I do.
That's most important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a full-time gig sometime.
Mhm.
And Scott is my business manager, so he better do good.
No pressure.
And Renee, sorry, just shouted your name. Renee, my best friend, does a lot of the design work for me and also runs her own lit mag and press. So it's really cool to work with my friends as well and have like a community. Yeah, so thank you.
Should we give a shout out? Renee is an alum
Renee.
of the program, so you can shout out for her.
Yeah.
for her journal.
And Jessica.
Not this program.
Yeah, I know you're not a writer, you're a chemist.
Chemist.
Yeah, I don't know how we became friends. It's cool.
It's a long, convoluted story.
My adopted brother. Anyway. Questions? Good? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.